In a rural village during Japan's Edo period, a woman's voice calls out to a young man named Hanbi, reminding him that it's about time he got married. A close-up reveals Hanbi, a handsome young man with an intense gaze. He responds thoughtfully to the suggestion of marriage with a simple, non-committal ichem. Inside a traditional house, Hanbi sits across a hearth from the older woman, likely his mother or grandmother, and agrees with her. Yeah, you're right, he concedes. His attention is suddenly pulled outside towards the fields. He hears shouting and sees a commotion in the distance, where a few figures are gathered. Zooming in, it appears to be a scuffle. An older woman is trying to pull apart two younger people who are fighting, telling them that's enough. A smile of recognition crosses Hanbi's face as he identifies the young woman involved in the squabble. He calls out her name fondly, Oharu. We're introduced to Oharu, a beautiful girl with long, dark hair. She turns, having heard Hanbi calling for her. Hanbi approaches Oharu and asks for a moment to talk. She looks at him with a hint of suspicion, asking what's wrong and noting that he's acting weird. The two find a quiet spot to sit in the fields. Hanbi begins the conversation by noting that they are both 17 years old. Hanbi awkwardly starts his confession, asking Oharu about her preferences before finally gathering his courage and blurting out his proposal. Let's get married. The moment is captured in a split panel showing their contrasting reactions. Hanbi is flushed with a mix of hope and embarrassment, while Oharu is completely stunned into silence. Oharu, with a pained expression, gently rejects him. She avoids his gaze and admits that she already has feelings for someone else. Hanbi's hopeful expression shatters. He quietly says, "I see," but his wide-eyed shock reveals his utter disbelief and heartbreak at her words. Attempting to mask his pain, Hanbi erupts into a forced, booming laugh, remarking that this other person must be quite the guy. Oharu watches his strange reaction with concern. Though still pretending to be amused, Hanbi can't stop himself from asking who his rival is. Oharu hesitates, her face filled with apprehension. Oharu finally answers, her expression a mixture of shyness and sorrow. She explains that the man she likes is from the neighboring village. With a blush dusting her cheeks, she reveals his name, the name that will seal Hanbi's disappointment. Masakichi. The name hits Hanbi like a physical blow. A close-up on his eyes shows the shock and recognition as he repeats the name, Masakichi, in disbelief. Hanbi's insecurities begin to show. He asks if Masakichi is tall, a question that pains him. When Oharu quietly confirms he's taller than Hanbi, it's another sting to his pride. Oharu continues to explain her feelings, admitting that while she didn't think much of Masakichi at first, he has now captured all of her attention. Hanbi presses further, asking if she has even spoken to him. Oharu shyly admits that she hasn't, revealing that her infatuation is entirely one-sided. Hanbi leans back with another hollow laugh, trying to play it cool by saying, "So that's how it is?" But his relaxed posture is a poor disguise for his disappointment. Oharu just looks down sadly. Unable to let it go, Hanbi asks about his rival's strength. Oharu's reply is shocking. She tells him Masakichi once defeated 10 men in a single fight, leaving Hanbi stunned into silence. They walk together, the earlier lightness between them now gone. Hanbi stares forward, a new resolve hardening his expression as he processes the revelation about Masakichi's strength. Hanbi abruptly stops walking, turning to Oharu as if a decision has just been made. His sudden intensity catches her by surprise as he prepares to voice the strange new ambition forming in his mind. His line of questioning takes a strange turn as he asks Oharu if she's ever seen Shogun. Confused, she says she hasn't. With a sudden intensity, Hanbi then declares his true intention. "I want to meet him." Oharu is completely bewildered by his request and asks why. Hanbi, looking resolute, gives a one-word answer that only deepens her confusion. Wrestling. Exasperated, Oharu tells him he's saying weird things again and asks if he thinks this is strange. Hanbi is left standing alone as he watches her and her friends walk away. The scene shifts to nightfall, casting the small village houses in shadow under a star-filled sky. In the quiet of the night, Hambi lies wide awake, his mind clearly consumed by Oharu's rejection. In the adjoining room, his mother can be seen kneeling in prayer. The next morning, as his mother works in the rice paddies, Hambi announces he's going out. She jokes, asking if he's off to find a wife. Hambi simply walks away with grim purpose. With unwavering determination, Hambi journeys through the countryside, crossing fields and forests on his way to find his rival. He reaches the neighboring village and asks a group of locals if they know Masakichi. The women immediately recognize the name, confirming that they do and that he is a good man. One of the women points out a small, secluded house in the distance, identifying it as Masakichi's home. Hambi looks on, now knowing where to find the man Oharu admires. Hambi arrives at the rustic house, but finds it deserted. He inspects the area, noting the simple, humble living conditions, but there is no sign of Masakichi. Not giving up, Hambi asks another villager working in the fields. He learns that Masakichi has gone to the mountains. Following this new lead, Hambi ventures into a dense bamboo forest. Deep in the tranquil bamboo grove, we are introduced to Masakichi for the first time. A skilled swordsman, he stands calmly with his katana, surrounded by the evidence of his training. Perfectly sliced bamboo stalks. A close-up on Masakichi reveals a man with long, dark hair tied in a ponytail and a sharp, focused expression that speaks to his discipline and strength. Hambi, hidden amongst the bamboo, watches his rival. He sees Masakichi's hand resting confidently on the hilt of his sword, a picture of calm before action. In a flash of movement, Masakichi draws his blade and demonstrates his formidable skill, cleanly slicing through a thick bamboo stalk with a single, powerful strike. From his hiding spot, Hambi's eye widens in pure shock. He has now seen with his own eyes that the rumors of Masakichi's incredible strength were true. Sensing a presence, Masakichi's calm demeanor breaks. He turns, surprised to discover that he is being watched. Hambi reveals himself, stepping into the clearing. The two rivals for Oharu's affection finally stand face to face in the now silent bamboo grove. Masakichi walks past Hambi without a word and heads out of the forest. After a moment's hesitation, Hambi follows him, leaving the grove behind. As the two men walk, the atmosphere grows heavy. The sky darkens, and rain begins to fall, dotting their faces and signaling a coming storm. The rain intensifies, pouring down on them as they stand facing each other in an open field. The confrontation Hambi sought finally at hand. Masakichi breaks the silence, asking Hambi if he needs something. Hambi, trying to assert dominance, smirks and taunts him. "What's a peasant doing with a sword?" Before they walk off, Hambi continues his mockery as he follows Masakichi through the rain. "Are you playing at being a samurai?" he sneers. Masakichi remains stoic, refusing to engage with the insults. Finally, Hambi makes his move. With a confident, challenging grin, he says, "Hey, want to wrestle?" Masakichi gives no verbal response. He simply turns and walks away, completely dismissing Hambi's challenge and leaving him standing alone in the rain. Refusing to be dismissed, Hambi shouts after his rival, turning the challenge into a direct comparison. "Hey, let's see who's taller, and let's see who's stronger." But Masakichi continues to walk away. A look of fierce determination flashes in Hambi's eyes. He decides to force the issue, planting his feet in the muddy, rain-soaked ground. With a desperate lunge, Hambi attacks Masakichi from behind, grabbing onto him to initiate the wrestling match he was denied. Masakichi is caught by surprise, but reacts quickly, trying to stop Hambi from getting a proper hold. Hambi clings on, turning his challenge into a chaotic brawl in the rain. The two are now locked in a desperate struggle. Hambi manages to grab Masakichi's collar, using his momentum to pull the swordsman off balance. Fueled by adrenaline and jealousy, Hambi puts all his strength into lifting Masakichi, attempting a powerful wrestling throw. The fight is a frantic scramble in the mud. Hambi manages to hoist Masakichi into the air, but they both go down in a heap. The brawl continues with Hambi trying to overpower Masakichi, striking at him and trying to maintain his grip in the slippery conditions. In a completely bizarre turn of events, Hambi has Masakichi in a tight hold, but is now screaming for help, much to the confusion of Oharu and her friends watching from a distance. Their strange fight is instantly forgotten when the children begin to scream. They cry out that a girl named Okinu has fallen into the water. Both Hambi and Masakichi turn in alarm. The true danger is revealed as the heavy rain has caused a flash flood. A small girl is being swept away by the raging current as her friends cry out her name in terror. The girl, Okinu, struggles to keep her head above the violent water. Hambi and Masakichi are frozen in shock, their petty rivalry dwarfed by the life-and-death situation. Masakichi proves his true character by immediately diving into the treacherous floodwaters to rescue the girl, ignoring the villagers' cries that the current is too strong. Not to be outdone, and perhaps moved by his rival's heroism, Hambi also yells and leaps into the dangerous river after them. Both men hit the water with a massive splash. The children on the bank can only watch in horror as the flood threatens to consume them all. Masakichi and the young girl are seen being tossed around helplessly by the powerful, churning waves of the flood. Through immense effort, Masakichi manages to grab hold of Okinu, fighting desperately to keep her from being pulled under by the current. The tragedy escalates as Oharu is also swept into the flood, adding to the chaos and horror of the moment. The scene is one of pure chaos as Hanbi, Oharu, and Masakichi are all caught in the deadly embrace of the flood, struggling for their lives. The force of the water is overwhelming. Oharu is violently torn from the group, thrown about by the waves as Hanbi reaches for her in a futile gesture. A hand slips beneath the surface. It is a moment of pure despair as Hanbi's hand is the last thing seen before he too is submerged, with Oharu lost to the current. Coughing up water, Hanbi briefly surfaces. He sees the child, Okinu, being pulled to safety on the shore by the other villagers. Just as he surfaces, he witnesses Masakichi disappearing beneath the waves. The swordsman's face is strangely serene as the water closes over him, seemingly accepting his fate. The world fades to black. Hanbi's eye is seen for a final moment underwater, wide with the terror of drowning, before he too is pulled into the darkness of the depths, seemingly taking his last breath. But death is not the end. In the very next instant, the sensation of drowning is replaced by solid wood beneath his hands. Hanbi finds himself on a floor, gasping desperately for air that now fills his lungs. Soaking wet and utterly disoriented, he is alive in a place he doesn't recognize. As he catches his breath, Hanbi looks up, and his confusion deepens. Kneeling right beside him is Masakichi, also drenched and gasping for air. The two rivals, who were just swallowed by a raging river, are now inexplicably alive and together in this strange, unknown place. A man with long, wet hair named Masakichi gasps for air. Beside him, another young man, Hanbi, does the same, both of their faces etched with confusion and exhaustion as if they've just been pulled from the water. From behind, Hanbi and Masakichi are seen kneeling on a wooden floor. Before them sits a massive, perfectly smooth black sphere, its presence ominous and inexplicable. A wider view reveals a crowd of people dressed in Edo period clothing, all gathered in a traditional Japanese room. They're all focused on the mysterious black sphere in the center. A close-up on Masakichi shows sweat beading on his face. He continues to pant, his eyes filled with shock and bewilderment. Similarly, Hanbi is also shown up close, his face slick with sweat. He breathes heavily, trying to process the unbelievable situation he has found himself in. The scene shows the entire group again, kneeling silently before the black sphere. The atmosphere is tense as they all stare at the object, trapped in a state of collective confusion. An old man with a topknot looks around, noticing that more people have appeared. Hanbi, looking lost and distressed, desperately asks, "Where are we?" The camera focuses on Masakichi's wide, fearful eyes, then pans to show the shocked faces of other men, and finally the concerned expression of the old man, capturing the shared panic in the room. The crowd is a mix of different people. Some are stern-faced samurai, armed with swords, who look on with suspicion and apprehension. Among the crowd are a scared young boy and girl. A samurai turns to the old man, questioning his earlier claim. "Sir, you said that this is the afterlife, correct?" The old man voices the terrifying theory that has begun to dawn on everyone. He explains that he believes everyone here has died and somehow found themselves in this strange place. The terrible realization sinks in. Masakichi is speechless, while Hambi exclaims in shock, I died too." He then gets to his feet, confronting the impossible truth. Hambi walks toward the black orb, asking what it is. He tentatively reaches out and places his hand on its perfectly smooth surface, questioning if it's just a stone. Looking around, Hambi observes the room more closely. He notes that although it's bright as day, there are no windows or lamps, no light source of any kind. Masakichi looks on with a grim expression, while Hambi continues to ponder their predicament, asking himself, is this really the afterlife? The group's composure breaks. A young boy cries out for his mother, realizing he can't go home. A man shouts that this is ridiculous and tries to leave, while a few samurai joke grimly that if this is hell, they should be looking for demons. Refusing to be trapped, Masakichi takes action, lunging toward a sliding paper door and attempting to kick it open. The impact of his powerful kick reverberates through the room, a desperate attempt to break free from their mysterious prison. Others rush to help, trying to force the doors, but they won't budge. The old man states the obvious, it's no use. Hambi turns to Masakichi and asks, "How's it going?" Hambi stands and observes the futile escape attempt, a look of dawning resignation on his face as he mutters to himself, the afterlife. The strange room is filled with unsettling decor, including several small, ancient-looking humanoid statues, adding to the eerie atmosphere. A few men peer through a barred window, but it's totally pitch black outside. One man notes the strange feeling in the air, the lack of wind, and concludes that this must be hell. Suddenly, a strange sound emanates from the black sphere. Two men shout in alarm, pointing towards it and yelling that someone is coming out. Masakichi and Hanbi both turn their heads in surprise, their expressions filled with a mix of shock and morbid curiosity as they witness the impossible event unfolding before them. Just as the men shouted, a new person begins to materialize from the side of the sphere. Their body is transported into the room, feet first, finally coming to rest on the wooden floor. The group stares in astonishment as a woman in an elegant, ornate kimono lies on the floor where she just materialized. The old man exclaims in shock. A close-up reveals the woman's face. She is beautiful and serene, with intricate hair ornaments, appearing as though she is simply sleeping. The bewildered people form a circle around the unconscious woman, looking down at her and the impossible situation. The crowd begins to murmur. One man comments on her beauty. The old man is speechless. Another, a proud samurai, scoffs that she must be a princess, the daughter of a great feudal lord. Masakichi and Hambi look on in shock. Hambi recognizes her as Oharu, noting she looks like a princess. Meanwhile, two other men wonder if she, too, is dead, just like them. Suddenly, the woman's eyes flutter open. She is waking up. As Oharu sits up, the group of men, including Hanbi and Masakichi, look down on her, their faces a mixture of awe and confusion. Hambi stares, beads of sweat on his face, as he watches Oharu come to her senses. Oharu looks around the room, her expression filled with disorientation, and asks the question on everyone's mind. Is this the afterlife? Hambi replies to her, admitting that no one really knows for sure. Oharu seems to silently accept this grim uncertainty. Hambi begins to question Oharu directly, asking if she's a noble's daughter, perhaps even related to the shogun. This earns him a sharp rebuke from another man, who yells at him for his impertinence. Before the argument can continue, A shimmering light appears once more. One of the men shouts, "Ah, another one," as a new figure begins to materialize. A new woman appears, and she is completely out of place. She is short, light-colored hair, and wears a bizarre, futuristic black suit beneath her simple kimono, shocking everyone. Oharu, Hanbi, and another man stare with wide-eyed disbelief at this strange new arrival, who looks unlike anyone they have ever seen. The new woman, Kuri, stands before the group. Her modern haircut and high-tech gear create a stark contrast with the traditional Edo period people surrounding her. Kuri immediately takes charge, her voice ringing with authority as she shouts, "Listen, and listen good, all of you." With her back to the viewer, Kuri addresses the entire bewildered assembly, demanding their full attention. Masakichi and Hambi stare back with defiant intensity. A samurai speaks up, challenging her authority, but Kuri cuts him off, her eyes blazing as she insists, "We have no time." Kuri throws her hand out and makes a stunning declaration. "You are not yet dead. You'll all be able to make it back home if you listen to what I say." Her words hang in the air. Masakichi and Hanbi look on, their expressions a mixture of deep skepticism and a desperate, flickering hope. A close-up shows Oharu, her elegant features perfectly still as she listens intently to Kuri's unbelievable claims. A stern-looking samurai leader steps forward, demanding answers. "Who are you? What do you know?" he asks, his voice filled with suspicion. Kuri doesn't flinch. She repeats her urgent plea, insisting that there is no time for explanations and that their only way home is to do exactly as she says. The samurai leader's distrust boils over into open contempt. "You're a strange one," he sneers, as if anyone would simply do as you say without hearing your side of the story first. Kuri steamrolls past his objections, her explanation becoming even more outlandish as she reveals their source of power. "Swords and guns," she declares, "will be released by that ball." Kuri's eyes are shown in a tight close-up, her expression intense and serious as she delivers the shocking conclusion. "And with those, you will fight monsters." Her words are met with immediate disbelief. A group of samurai protest, with their leader demanding, "What the hell are you talking about? This makes no sense." Kuri insists, telling the skeptical men that there's no time to argue and that they must put on the same strange clothes that she is wearing. She pulls at the collar of her high-tech suit, passionately explaining, "If you wear these, you can triumph even over demons." Her expression softens into a desperate plea. "If we all cooperate, we can go home," she cries out, her voice filled with urgency. Losing her patience, she screams at them, her face contorted with stress. "There's no time. Just do as I say." Hambi steps forward from the crowd, his expression serious. He looks Kuri in the eye and questions her promise. "You said, we can go home." Hambi challenges her directly. "Show me some proof." In response, Kuri's eyes widen for a second before she suddenly grabs the front of his kimono. With shocking, unbelievable ease, Kuri hurls Hanbi through the air. He lets out a cry of woe as he is sent flying across the room. The entire group watches in stunned silence as Hanbi's body sails through the air. They can't comprehend how Kuri, with her slender arms, could throw him 3 meters so effortlessly. Hanbi lies on the floor, gasping for breath. He stares up at the ceiling, his mind reeling from the display of superhuman strength. Picking himself up, Hanbi admits, "You're strong." Kuri calmly replies that it's all thanks to her clothes, and that anyone could do the same if they wore them. Hanbi is amazed. "Really? Will I also get stronger?" he asks. Kuri confirms it, adding, "Even being cut by a sword would do nothing to you." The other men murmur amongst themselves. Some dismiss it as a cheat, but others are starting to believe, realizing that what they saw was no mere martial arts trick. The samurai leader silently contemplates this new reality. As if on cue, the room is suddenly filled with the sound of a traditional Japanese folk song, confusing everyone. The men look around, trying to find the source of the music. "Who is singing?" one asks. They quickly realize the sound is coming directly from the black sphere. Oharu, Hanbi, the children, and Masakichi all turn their attention to the sphere, listening to the eerie song that emanates from the silent, black orb. Just as suddenly as it began, the music stops. Two men kneeling by the sphere cry out in alarm as glowing text begins to appear on its surface. A close-up shows the strange, glowing script. The men are illiterate and can't make sense of it, shouting out to ask if anyone in the room knows how to read. The old man squints at the text, managing to read the first haunting sentence aloud. "Your lives have ended." The men ask what the message means. Before the old man can continue reading, a crude painting of a samurai warrior appears on the sphere's surface next to the text. The old man reads the name written next to the portrait, Miyamoto Musashi. The others are horrified. They realize the sphere is giving them a command to defeat this person. The samurai leader points at the image on the sphere. "Hey boy," he calls out to Cory. "Is that the monster you mentioned?" Cory confirms their fears. "Yes," she says, looking at the terrified group. "If we can't slay him, we can't go home." With a loud mechanical whir, the top and bottom of the black sphere retract, revealing racks of equipment stored inside. The men jump back, startled by the sudden transformation. The group stares at the rows of futuristic black suits and weapons now visible inside the open sphere. One of the men, awestruck, comments that everything Cory said has turned out to be true. The reality of their mission begins to set in. Close-ups show the faces of Oharu, Cory, Masakichi, and Hanbi, each processing the impossible task ahead with a mixture of fear, determination, and resolve. The scene opens on a piece of highly advanced technology, completely out of place in the historical setting, with the title Gansey displayed. A closer look reveals the intricate, futuristic mechanical details of the mysterious devices. Oharu, a woman in a formal kimono, holds one of the strange devices, her expression a mixture of confusion and awe. The device is described as an import from the South Sea countries, adding to the mystery of its origin. With a click, the device opens, revealing a form-fitting black suit tucked inside a case. An old woman and a young man, Hanbi, examine a case that has mysteriously appeared. Hanbi is shocked to see his own name, Hanbi, written on a scroll attached to it, wondering how the object could possibly know who he is. Suddenly, a bald man strapped inside a strange, coffin-like pod lets out a startled cry. One of the villagers peers into the pod and shouts in alarm, exclaiming that there's a bonze, a Buddhist monk, inside. A crowd gathers around the pod, their faces a mixture of fear and curiosity as they confirm that it is indeed a bonze inside the strange machine. The villagers are utterly bewildered. One questions what is happening. Another wonders if they've somehow attained Buddhahood, while a third curses, realizing they are still breathing. They try to wake the unconscious man, shouting, "Hey, mister, wake up." A new figure appears, a woman with short blonde hair. She holds up one of the devices and tells the confused group to watch, as she will show them how to use it. With a determined look, the blonde woman activates the device. The tool begins to morph and assemble around her hands, which are now covered in black gloves. In a flash of mechanical transformation, the device extends into a long, formidable sword. The crowd of villagers stares in utter disbelief, shouting that it's a sword and that it's incredible. The blonde woman explains grimly that from this point on, they are heading into battle. She warns them that if they don't win, they cannot return alive. One of the men listens, his face hardening as he processes the dire news. She screams at them that there is no time and they must hurry up and put on the suits. The others watch as Hanbi begins to strip off his clothes, preparing to don the strange black suit. Hanbi awkwardly begins to put on the suit, questioning how it works and what its purpose is. The other men watch him, a sense of dread and uncertainty on their faces. "He's wearing it," one of them mutters, as they debate what they should do. Elsewhere, Masakichi, a man with a long ponytail, is already fully geared up in the black suit, silently holding his sword. Oharu looks down at the case that was meant for Hanbi, a thoughtful and worried expression on her face. Chaos erupts. A young boy cries out in panic as people start screaming. A man's head vanishes in a thin air, and a woman points in horror. The blonde woman looks on grimly, announcing, "Damn it, it's begun." The blonde woman shouts desperately at the panicking crowd, telling them to quickly grab the boxes and any weapon they can find, even a sword. Terror sweeps through the room as the man's body completely disappears. The villagers scream that they're going to die again. As the panic unfolds, the characters who put on the suits, including Hanbi, look on with strained expressions while the blonde woman urges them to hurry. In an instant, they are all transported outside to a dark, rocky landscape under the night sky. The survivors look around, completely disoriented, with someone questioning if this is the afterlife. As their eyes slowly adjust to the darkness, one of the men asks if they can just walk home now, while another hopefully questions if there is a lantern nearby. As one of the men's eyes finally adjust to the moonlight, the group stands together on a rocky riverbank, still completely lost and asking one another where they could possibly be. The blonde woman, Kuri, senses an approaching danger. She urgently yells that something is coming and orders those who brought their boxes to hurry and put on the suits. Masakichi and Hambi share a tense glance. From the woods, the group hears an ominous cawing sound. The unequipped villagers wonder aloud if it's just crows, while one man nervously asks what is coming. A group of shadowy figures emerges from the forest, their cawing growing louder and echoing across the river. The faces of Masakichi, Oharu, Hanbi, and the others are filled with dread and confusion. The figures step into the light, revealing their terrifying nature. They are warriors in samurai armor with the heads of giant crows, armed with spears. One of the crow-like creatures steps into the shallow water, splashing towards the group. The nearby villagers are paralyzed with fear, one letting out a gasp. As one of the crow creatures opens its beak, Masakichi and Hambi flinch back, startled and sweating. The two groups face each other in a tense standoff. The terrified, mostly unarmed villagers on one side of the riverbank, and the silent, menacing army of crow warriors on the other. The standoff continues. Kuri and Hambi look on in horror, while the other villagers descend into panic, wondering if these are evil spirits and concluding that this must be the afterlife after all. Kuri, though not wearing one of the protective suits herself, stands defiantly before the approaching crow warriors, her sword at the ready. Despite her brave posture, Kuri's hands tremble as she grips the hilt of her sword, her face showing the fear she feels as she prepares to fight. A close-up view reveals the unsettling, bird-like features of one of the crow warriors, its head tilted menacingly. The reflection in the creature's glossy black eye shows Kuri standing before it. Its inhuman eyes lock onto its target. With a powerful leap and a battle cry, one of the crow warriors launches the first attack, splashing through the water with its spear aimed to kill. The leader of the crow warriors shrieks the command to its brethren, "Everyone, kill them." Seeing the attack begin, Kuri desperately screams at her allies, telling them that if they are wearing the suits, they can win this fight. She begs them to kill the creatures. The battle begins with immediate bloodshed. One of the villagers, who wasn't wearing a suit, is instantly impaled by a crow warrior's spear. The man falls to the ground, dead or dying from the brutal spear wound. The other villagers watch, their faces frozen in expressions of pure terror and shock at the sudden violence. Kuri is quickly overwhelmed by the creatures. She cries out in pain as they swarm her, kicking her to the ground and stabbing at her with their spears. Seeing the massacre unfold, a group of villagers breaks ranks and runs for their lives, panting in sheer terror. The villagers scream in absolute despair, crying out that this must be hell and questioning why they are being killed yet again. Surrounded by the monsters, some cry out for their mothers. One man, convinced of his own speed, proudly declares he's a fast runner and makes a desperate dash to escape the slaughter. He vows to run to the ends of hell itself if he must, pushing himself to his absolute limit in a frantic bid for survival. His desperate flight is cut short as his head suddenly explodes in a gruesome spray of blood, his screams silenced in an instant. The runner's headless body stumbles forward from the momentum before collapsing onto the rocky ground, a silent and horrifying spectacle for all to see. Another villager who had started to run stops in his tracks, staring back in utter disbelief at the headless body of his companion. From a distance, the other villagers can only watch in horror. One of them screams that the runner's head blew up, just as two more crow warriors advance on them. Meanwhile, Kuri lies defeated on the ground, wounded and gasping for breath after being overwhelmed. Kuri's eyes widen in terror as she looks up from the ground. The crow warriors stand over her, raising their spears to deliver the final blows. She lets out a final scream as the creatures ruthlessly stab her again and again, their spears piercing her body. Hamby watches, paralyzed by fear, as Kuri is brutally finished off. He can only pant and sweat, horrified by the carnage he's witnessing. Finally spurred into action by the brutality, Masakichi makes his move, leaping through the water and delivering a powerful kick to one of the crow warriors. Kuri, though grievously wounded, is still conscious. She lies on the ground, her eyes wide with shock and pain as she struggles to breathe. Despite his impressive attack, Masakichi is caught from behind by another crow warrior, crying out as the creature grabs him. The creature shrieks as it restrains Masakichi. Hamby looks on, his face a mask of panic as his rival is captured. From the ground, the helpless Kuri watches with wide, terrified eyes as Masakichi is overpowered. Even while caught, Masakichi fights back, using his bare hands to counterattack the crow warrior holding him. As a crow warrior shrieks, Hamby grabs onto its leg. He struggles against the creature, panting heavily as the arm of his suit appears to malfunction or reconfigure under the strain. The scene opens on a dark river, where figures in samurai armor are wading through the water. But these are no ordinary samurai. They have the heads of monstrous crows. They advance menacingly, their spears ready. A young woman with blonde hair, Oharu, screams a desperate warning. A man in a traditional kimono looks back just in time to see the crow-headed samurai charging at them, their guttural cries filling the night air. The battle is immediate and brutal. A man in a high-tech black suit, Masakichi, lets out a horrific scream as a spear pierces him directly through the eye. The force of the blow is devastating. The spear brutally impales his head, and in the next moment, all we see is the blood-splattered beak of the crow-samurai, a testament to its kill. Fueled by adrenaline and the power of the Gant's suit, Masakichi roars in defiance. He tears the arm guard from his suit and uses it as a shield, pushing back against the swarm of crow samurai surrounding him. Oharu watches with wide, terrified eyes. Below, Masakichi, his face a mask of fierce determination, glares back at the enemy, ready to continue the fight. But the crow samurai are relentless. Another Gantz user is overwhelmed, their body being torn apart by the vicious spear and sword strikes of the aliens. The Gantz user is sent flying backwards from the force of the aliens' coordinated attack. Oharu can only watch from the riverbank, her face a picture of pure horror at the unfolding massacre. A close-up on Oharu's face reveals her utter shock and terror. The reality of their situation is crashing down on her as she witnesses the brutal deaths of her companions. In stark contrast to the surrounding chaos and despair, Masakichi breaks into a confident, almost crazed smile, seemingly reveling in the power the Gant's suit has granted him. The brief skirmish ends with Masakichi standing over the fallen bodies of the crow samurai. Oharu looks on in complete disbelief, stammering that he's strong. Masakichi, panting heavily, is equally amazed, exclaiming how awesome the suit is. Elsewhere along the river, the horror continues. A mother desperately clutches her child, crying in terror as two crow samurai advance on them with their spears. The mother's face is etched with pure desperation and fear for her child's life as she lets out a helpless scream, seeing no way out. Under the pale light of the full moon, the two crow samurai corner the defenseless mother and her child, their bird-like caws echoing in the night. A blade flashes in the starlight. The mother winces, preparing for the inevitable. A target card appears, showing the Japanese characters for Masazora. Then a Gantz-suited foot splashes into the water. A new player has arrived. Suddenly, a new warrior appears. It's Hanzo, a woman with long, flowing black hair, clad in a Gantz suit. With incredible speed, she intercepts the Crow-sarai, slicing one of them in half just as it was about to strike the mother and child. With fluid grace, Hanzo leaps and cuts down another Crow-sarai, demonstrating a level of skill far beyond that of the other villagers. However, in a chaotic battle, even a skilled warrior can be overwhelmed. Another Crow-sarai manages to tackle Hanzo, bringing her down to the ground. Hanzo struggles as the alien pins her, its sharp blade pressing against her throat. The Crow-sarai lets out a victorious caw, its beady eye glaring down at her. Hanzo grunts, straining against the alien's strength, sweat pouring down her face. The mother she just saved looks on, her expression frozen in renewed horror. The Crow-sarai bears down, using its full weight to press the blade deeper, intent on finishing Hanzo off. But Hanzo is not finished yet. With a final burst of strength, she thrusts her own blade upwards. The alien's beak opens in a silent scream as blood erupts from a fatal wound in its neck. The tables have turned. Hanzo looks up as the life fades from the Crow-sarai's eye, its severed head beginning to fall. As the headless body of the alien collapses, Hanzo is left panting from exhaustion, her face splattered with blood. The rescued mother stares at her, speechless at the brutal skill that just saved her life, a stark contrast to the widespread slaughter happening all around them. The camera pans out to show the full scale of the brutal invasion. While a lone, traditionally dressed swordsman makes a valiant stand, the riverbank is littered with the bodies of the fallen. It's becoming tragically clear that those without the black suits are little more than fodder for these monsters. As the chaos unfolds, Masakichi runs alongside another villager, having a horrifying realization. He shouts that the people who were killed so easily weren't wearing the clothes, the black Gantz suits. The experienced blonde warrior, who seems to understand the rules of this twisted game, yells that they have to save as many people as possible, otherwise they won't be able to defeat the boss. The term is completely foreign to Masakichi. He looks back in confusion, sweat dripping down his face, and asks, "Boss?" The scene shifts back to the master swordsman, Miyamoto Musashi. With a look of intense concentration, he grips his katana, the muscles in his hands taut as he prepares for battle. On a title spread for Gantz, Musashi stands as the last line of defense for the terrified villagers. Left with no other choice, he and his companion draw their swords against the monstrous Crow-sarai. Musashi pants, facing off against one of the aliens. The creature lets out a menacing caw, its own weapon at the ready. The other villagers are paralyzed by fear, with one man crying out, "I don't want to die," as a Crow-sarai lunges towards them with its long spear. But Musashi is a master of his craft. With incredible speed and precision, he steps in and parries the alien's spear thrust with his own katana. Musashi strains against the alien's brute strength, his face a grimace of effort as he holds the deadly spear at bay. With a powerful twist, Musashi deflects the spear and brings his katana around in a wide, sweeping arc, aiming to disarm his monstrous opponent. His blade finds its mark, cleanly slicing through the metal shaft of the alien spear, sending the tip flying. The Crow-samurai shrieks in pain and surprise as its weapon is shattered. Musashi's companion looks on, shouting in astonishment at the swordsman's feat. A spark of hope ignites in Musashi's companion, who yells, "We can do it! We can kill him!" Musashi, however, remains stoic, letting out a dismissive pff. Cutting back to Masakichi and the villager, they continue to flee along the rocky riverbed, splashing through the shallow water as they try to make sense of the situation. The conversation between the veteran warrior and Masakichi continues. She seems to be explaining the rules, but he is still reeling, asking her to repeat herself in disbelief. The truth finally begins to sink in for Masakichi. As they run, he shouts, "No, this isn't the afterlife. We're still alive." The terrifying hope of survival dawns on him. Masakichi frantically asks if they can truly go home if they kill the boss. The veteran confirms they can be back by dawn if they survive. The possibility crystallizes in his mind, and he asks with trembling hope, "I can see my mother again?" Meanwhile, Hanzo catches her breath, standing over the alien she defeated. Nearby, the mother and her children look on, safe for the moment. Turning to the woman she just saved, Hanzo gives her a stern piece of advice. "You should wear the clothes too," she says, urging the mother to don a Gantz suit for her own protection. The target card for Masazura lies on the ground between them. The mother looks down at it, her expression unreadable as she processes Hanzo's words. Hanzo makes her point clear. "Can't have you just relying on me," she states bluntly. The mother remains silent, understanding that she must find her own strength to survive. Back in the main fray, Musashi's fight continues. He is suddenly attacked by a crow samurai, not with a spear, but with a powerful, swift punch. Despite his age, Musashi's reflexes are extraordinary. He ducks under the alien's haymaker, the blow just barely missing his head. Musashi grimaces as he takes a glancing blow. In the chaos, his less experienced companion is sent flying by another crow samurai's brutal attack. The numbers game is catching up to him. A crow samurai gets behind Musashi, grabbing him in a chokehold and lifting him off his feet. Even while being choked and lifted off the ground, Musashi refuses to give up. He slams his elbow back into the alien's face, his own expression a mask of pure defiance. Inspired by his master's tenacity, Musashi's companion gets to his feet. With a desperate cry, he charges forward and runs a crow samurai through with his broken spear. In a final act of defiance, the companion flips the impaled alien over his shoulder. But the victory is short-lived, as the alien's companion fatally stabs him from behind. The scene shifts to a quiet, pivotal moment. Hanzo looks on as the woman she saved now stands before her, no longer a helpless civilian, but a warrior clad in the black Gantz suit. The woman has cast off her traditional kimono, which now lies in a heap on the ground. She stands firmly in the Gantz suit, holding one of the futuristic weapons, ready to fight. Looking at Hanzo with newfound resolve, the mother-turned warrior confirms her choice with 3 simple words. "I've put them on." Back at the massacre, the fight has reached its grim conclusion for the unsuited villagers. Musashi is the last one standing, surrounded by 3 kusurai who point their spears directly at him. The remaining villagers can only watch in terror, panting and sweating. One man with a prominent tattoo stares, his face a mixture of fear and disbelief at the swordsman's impending doom. Just then, Masakichi and Oharu arrive on the scene. They stop dead in their tracks, horrified by the carnage that lies before them. They see the lifeless bodies of Musashi's companion and another villager lying face down in the dirt and water. The sight hits them hard, their faces frozen in shock and horror. Masakichi and Oharu take in the full, horrific scene. They have arrived just in time to witness the final moments of the master swordsman's last stand, surrounded by his fallen comrades and his executioners. With nowhere left to run and no strength left to fight, Musashi accepts his fate. The 3 kusurai simultaneously thrust their spears forward, impaling the legendary swordsman from behind. The chapter closes on the horrified faces of Oharu and Masakichi. They are forced to watch the brutal execution, a final, bloody lesson on the cruel reality of this world. Without the suit, even the greatest skill is not enough to survive. Continuing from the last chapter, the terrifying bird-masked aliens brutally murder one of the villagers, impaling his head with a spear as his comrades watch in frozen terror. Close-ups show the raw horror on the villagers' faces. Masakichi and another man scream, utterly helpless against the monstrous beings that have invaded their lives. Suddenly, a figure in a black Gantz suit, Hanbi, leaps into action, launching a powerful flying kick straight at the alien. However, the alien stands firm. The impact sends Hanbi flying backward, splashing into the water, having seemingly done no damage. Hanbi is shocked to find that despite the powerful blowback, he feels no pain thanks to the suit. A surge of adrenaline hits him, and he lets out a cry of sheer, almost manic excitement. The alien retaliates, swatting another villager aside with incredible force, sending him flying through the air. As another villager is taken down, Hanbi finds himself surrounded by the two formidable bird-like creatures. Fueled by this new power, Hanbi unleashes a devastating punch, shattering the alien's thick chest armor. Following up on his attack, Hanbi grabs the alien by its head, asserting his dominance in the fight. With a powerful heave, he lifts the creature clean off its feet, demonstrating the incredible strength granted by the Gantz suit. But suddenly, something goes wrong. The suit begins to malfunction, its fibers bulging as if they're about to burst, and Hanbi cries out in agony. The alien remains eerily calm as Hanbi screams, his body contorting in pain. Nearby, the blonde Gantz warrior, Oharu, watches in horror, powerless to help. The malfunction reaches its peak as Hanbi's arm explodes in a gruesome spray of blood and suit material. Just as the situation seems lost, a blonde swordswoman who is not in a suit appears, deftly slicing through one of the bird aliens. With a look of sheer determination, she completes her swift and deadly strike against the alien creature. Her blade finds its mark, slicing the alien's head open and ending its life. Meanwhile, Hanbi collapses to the ground, clutching the mangled stump of his arm as the malfunctioning suit continues to writhe around him. Despite the agony, Hanbi, with a crazed look in his eyes, grabs the dead alien's arm and begins to tear it off with his remaining hand. The immediate threat is over. Hanbi, holding the alien's severed arm, and the swordswoman stand panting among the fallen foes while the other villagers look on from the water. The group gathers. Hanbi, trying to appear strong, asks if anyone is hurt. The swordswoman confirms she is fine. The other survivors are still terrified. Oharu asks if it's over, while Masakichi worries they'll be forced to fight the boss next. Oharu warns that the other enemies might have weapons. As the villagers begin scavenging the bodies of the fallen aliens for weapons, Oharu looks back toward Hanbi. One of the men finds a Gantz gun. Hanbi recognizes it as a powerful weapon, a fact Oharu confirms. She takes the weapon and tells everyone to watch carefully as she demonstrates how to use it. Oharu takes aim, her expression focused as she prepares to demonstrate the advanced weapon's capability. Hanbi looks on with curiosity. A moment later, a massive explosion erupts in the distance, a testament to the gun's incredible power. The group stares in awe at the sheer destructive power of the Gantz weapon. Hanbi, ever excitable, can only say, "Awesome." As the villagers arm themselves with the new weapons, Hanbi impatiently asks if they can just use them to kill the boss. He turns to Oharu, asking where the target is, and she grimly replies, "Soon, he'll be here." Meanwhile, in another part of the forest, a new team of Gantz players appears. A stoic warrior with a ponytail and a concerned-looking woman, both in Gantz suits, lead two small children along the riverbank. The woman, worried, asks her companion if he thinks the other people they're supposed to meet are okay. The silent warrior doesn't answer. She tries to speak again, but he quickly shushes her. Their powerful senses have picked something up. They stand alert as a tremor runs through the ground. The children and the woman look on in absolute terror at what is approaching. Suddenly, a colossal figure emerges from the river, the monk boss. The monstrous, giant alien towers over the small group, holding a massive spear. A close-up reveals its grotesque, scarred face, with a mouth full of teeth stretched into a permanent, horrifying grin. The small team can only stare upwards, frozen for a moment by the sheer scale and terror of the creature before them. Its massive foot slams into the riverbed, sending a huge splash of water into the air. As his companions recoil in fear, the ponytail-clad warrior shouts for them to get behind him, placing himself between them and the monster. The monk boss looms over the group, readying its enormous weapon and preparing to strike them down. Blood or saliva drips from the monk boss's mouth, its featureless face fixed on its prey with unnerving stillness. The warrior takes a deep breath, his breath visible in the cold night air. He steadies himself, preparing to face the giant foe alone. With his eyes fixed on the enemy, he grips his weapon, and a high-tech Gantz blade extends from the hilt. He explodes into action, dashing across the surface of the water as the monk boss begins to swing its gigantic spear. Using the Gantz suit's enhanced speed and agility, he gracefully dodges underneath the weapon's deadly path. The monk boss lets out a roar of frustration, having completely missed its much smaller and faster opponent. Though he avoided the blade, the force of the weapon hitting the water sends the warrior tumbling back. But he is relentless. Shouting, "Not yet," he quickly regains his footing and prepares to launch another assault. But before the boss fight, as Hambi's group made their way through the forest, he admitted that he had no idea when or where the boss would actually appear. Oharu then shared a grim story. She revealed that during the last mission, the boss nearly wiped out her entire team, and that this was her third time being pulled into this deadly game. All of her friends were gone. Hambi falls silent, turning to look at Oharu as the weight of her words sinks in. He finally begins to understand the true horror of her experience. A look of empathy crosses Hambi's face as he realizes the immense burden she's been carrying alone. He says softly, "Doing all that by yourself, in that slender body of yours." Looking at her with newfound respect and compassion, he finishes his thought with a simple, heartfelt acknowledgement. It must have been hard. Oharu is taken aback by his unexpected gentleness and empathy. For the first time, her hardened exterior cracks, and her eyes well up with tears. Hambi gently teases her for crying, and she hides her face in embarrassment. He then puts a reassuring hand on her shoulder, promising her that this time is different. This time, he's here, and he will make short work of the boss. The tender moment is shattered as the villagers spot a massive figure moving in the forest and cry out in alarm. The entire group freezes in shock. "The boss!" Hambi yells. Oharu immediately takes command, ordering everyone to get their weapons ready as they scramble into action. The villagers panic at the sight of the colossal monk boss, thinking it's impossible to defeat. Oharu shouts orders, telling them to use the guns and aim for its legs, while the newly arrived ponytail warrior also prepares for the fight. Following her command, the villagers take aim with their powerful Gantz guns, targeting the monster's lower body. They open fire, and a barrage of shots explodes around the monk boss's feet and ankles. Filled with a new sense of purpose and courage, Hambi ignores the plan, screaming, "All right, let's go." His head's mine. He charges forward recklessly, heading straight for the giant as the new arrivals watch from the riverbank. The female Gantz warrior and the children she's protecting look on with horrified expressions, witnessing Hambi's suicidal rush. Ignoring all danger, Hambi slides in low and fast, slicing his Gantz blade deep into the monk boss's ankle. He successfully lands the attack, leaving a bleeding gash as he comes to a stop, his sword pointed defiantly at the beast. The stoic, ponytailed warrior sweats, his calm demeanor broken by shock at Hambi's impulsive yet successful attack. The monk boss bellows in agony, black blood pouring from its wound. Its smooth head then splits open, revealing its true, horrifying form, a grotesque maw of teeth and writhing tendrils. A young warrior in a black suit, Hambi, looks up in terror. Before him stands a colossal monster in monk's robes, the monk boss alien, its head a grotesque tangle of snapping mouths. The monk boss alien's head splits wide open, revealing a horrifying, cavernous maw. It menacingly holds up a small, doll-like figure of a captured warrior. Inside the creature's monstrous mouth, a ball of energy begins to form, glowing ominously, signaling a devastating attack. The monk boss lets out a furious roar that shakes the air. Below, the warriors can only brace themselves for the inevitable assault. From its face, The monster unleashes a high-pressure spray of a mysterious, corrosive liquid, aiming it directly at the group of warriors below. The acid-like substance rains down on the battlefield, catching Hanbi and the other villagers directly in the splash zone. Hanbi looks down at his arm, shocked by the bizarre liquid, wondering what it is. Elsewhere, a villager screams in agony as the substance burns him. One of the men cries out in excruciating pain while his comrades yell in panic, wanting to escape. Hanbi, protected by his suit, reassures them that he is unharmed. Just as panic sets in, a veteran warrior with blonde hair appears, holding a large rifle. She shouts for the others to get back, stepping forward to confront the beast. The monk boss alien stomps through the shallow water, its immense feet kicking up waves as it lumbers towards the blonde warrior. Undeterred, the blonde Gantz warrior stands firm against the approaching giant, taking a steady aim with her powerful rifle. She unleashes a relentless volley of fire, the powerful shots echoing through the night as she unloads on the monster. Despite the immense pressure, she continues her assault. A close-up shows her determined face, beads of sweat mixing with the water as she focuses on her target. The monk boss roars in agony as the warrior's shots find their mark, blowing chunks from its legs and torso and covering it in black blood. The monster stumbles back, its body convulsing violently from the damage. It seems to be on the verge of collapse. With the beast seemingly defeated, the blonde Gantz warrior confidently declares, "We did it." The exhausted villagers behind her look on with a mix of awe and relief. However, before the victory can be celebrated, Hanbi lets out a battle cry and impulsively charges forward, blade in hand. He splashes through the water, rushing headfirst towards the danger, determined to prove himself. The victory was a lie. A new, even more terrifying demon alien stand before them, its jaw split wide. It effortlessly holds two miniature Gantz fighters captive in its hands. In a humiliating display of power, the demon alien examines its captives while Hanbi's charging attack ends with him comically stuck to the monster's chest. The demon alien grunts, barely acknowledging the warrior plastered to its torso, looking down on him with utter contempt. With a desperate shout of, "How's this?" Hanbi musters his remaining strength and drives his blade deeper into the monster's tough hide. The alien is unfazed. It simply grabs the struggling Hanbi in its massive hand, squeezing him effortlessly. As Hanbi is swatted away, the powerful warrior with long black hair steps forward. His face is a mask of grim determination as he accepts the challenge. The demon alien reacts instantly, grabbing the warrior in its massive hand. He grunts as the immense pressure crushes his torso, his muscles straining against the grip. But the long-haired warrior is not defeated. Held aloft in the demon alien's crushing grip, he poises his blade, preparing to strike the monster's head. With a final surge of strength, he plunges his sword into the alien's skull. His face is a mask of pure, gritting determination as he pushes the blade deeper. The fatally wounded demon alien remains standing for a moment, its captive still in its grasp. The survivors on the ground, including the blonde Gantz warrior, can only watch in stunned silence. An old villager looks on in disbelief, while Hanbi and the blonde Gantz warrior stare, breathless, wondering if the nightmare is finally over. The warrior continues to drive his sword into the monster's head, which lets out guttural groans of pain as its life fades. The warrior's muscles, enhanced by the Gantz suit, strain to their absolute limit as he prepares to deliver the finishing blow. With a final, powerful slash, the warrior splits the demon alien's head open. The colossal body collapses backward, crashing into the water with an enormous splash. The long-haired warrior stands victorious atop the corpse of the fallen monster. The villagers erupt in cheers, shouting that he's defeated him and that he's dead. The battle-worn warriors regroup. The long-haired hero looks on intensely. Hanbi is stunned by the sudden turn of events, and the newly introduced female, Gantz warrior, surveys the scene. A moment of calm falls over the group. They all believe it's finally over. Hanbi, exhausted, wonders if he can go home to his mom, while the blonde Gantz warrior suggests taking the wounded to a temple. Suddenly, a heavy thumping sound echoes from the forest, catching everyone's attention. The blonde Gantz warrior remarks to a villager that the monster they just fought resembled Musashi Miyamoto. The ominous thumping continues, growing louder from the darkness of the trees. A dreadful realization dawns on them. It's not over yet. The entire team, Gantz warriors and villagers alike, stand frozen. They stare into the black forest, bracing for the new threat that is approaching. Panic begins to spread as the villagers realize another one is coming. No, not just one. There are two of them. And one of them might be the real Musashi Miyamoto. Two figures emerge from the woods with godlike presence. Their arrival heralded by the phrase, "The devil has two faces." One is a master swordsman in traditional robes, the other a long-haired demon. The legendary swordsman, Musashi Miyamoto, and the imposing male demon brother stand before the terrified survivors, their power radiating an aura of absolute dread. Hanbi, having just survived one monster, now faces two legendary threats. He pants heavily, his eyes wide with sheer terror. A close-up shows the male demon brother's face. He is calm, his eyes narrowed with a serene, yet terrifying killing intent. Even the veteran Gantz warriors are shaken. The blonde warrior stares in shock, admitting she's never seen anything like this, while the long-haired hero pants, trying to recover. A close-up on Musashi Miyamoto. His expression is stoic, unreadable, a legendary warrior observing the scene before him. One of the villagers breaks, unable to handle the pressure. He raises his Gantz rifle and begins firing wildly, screaming in pure terror. The male demon brother stands perfectly still, allowing the energy blast from the rifle to dissipate harmlessly around his body. In a blur of motion, the demon brother leaps into the air, soaring over the frantic villager and unsheathing his katana with deadly grace. Before anyone can even react, the demon brother lands and swings his blade. A flash of steel, and the villager is instantly decapitated. As the villager's headless body crumples to the ground, the blonde Gantz warrior screams in horror, yelling at everyone to run for their lives. Chaos erupts as the survivors scatter. The blonde Gantz warrior desperately tries to pull a petrified villager to safety, who can only scream, "We're all going to die." Amid the panic, the long-haired Gantz warrior, who had just defeated a monster, turns back with a look of surprise on his face. He's surprised because someone isn't running. Hanbi, who was once frozen in fear, now steps forward, breathing heavily, but smiling as he prepares to face the two godlike foes alone. Hanbi stands as the sole challenger against the legendary swordsman Musashi Miyamoto and the terrifying male demon brother, a lone warrior against titans. The male demon brother looks down on him with disdain, a smug smile on his face as he scoffs. A human. Sweat pours down Hanbi's face, but his fear is overshadowed by a surge of adrenaline. A wide, almost manic grin spreads across his lips. With newfound resolve, Hanbi's smile broadens, and he declares to the heavens and his foes, "Let's do this." Hanbi charges, sprinting across the water towards his target. The male demon brother watches him come, calmly drawing his own katana. With a ferocious roar, Hanbi leaps through the air, bringing his sword down in a powerful arc aimed directly at the demon. He lands and continues his assault, splashing through the water and goading his opponent with a wild cry. "Give it your best shot. Come on." The demon brother smirks, effortlessly stopping Hanbi's blade with the palm of his hand. Undeterred, Hanbi screams for more. With a casual flick of his wrist, the demon brother parries the blow, the force of his block sending a shock wave through the water. Hanbi is thrown completely off balance, his body flung aside by the demon brother's overwhelming strength. Before Hanbi can recover, the demon brother appears before him, having caught the blade of his sword with 2 fingers, stopping it inches from his throat. The chapter ends on this terrifying cliffhanger. The demon brother's cold, triumphant gaze meets Hanbi's wide-eyed terror as he realizes he never stood a chance.